But just as in intellectual substances there is a higher and a lower, so also in corporeal substances. But the intellectual substances are governed by the superiors, so that the disposition of divine providence descends proportionally to the lowest, as has already been said. Therefore, in the same way, the lower bodies are arranged by the higher ones. Further, the more a body is in a higher place, the more formal it is found to be, and for this reason also it is reasonably a lower place, for it is to contain form as well as place. For water is more formal than earth, air is water, and fire is air. But the heavenly bodies are above all places. They are therefore more formal than all the others, therefore more active. They therefore act on the lower bodies, and thus the inferiors are arranged by them. Again, that which is perfect in its own nature without contrariety is of more universal virtue than that which is not perfected in its nature, except with contrariety. For contrariety is a kind of determining and contracting differences, whence in the reception of the understanding, because it is universal, the species of contraries are not opposites when they are together. But the heavenly bodies are perfect in their natures without any contrariety, for they are neither light nor heavy, neither hot nor cold. But the lower bodies are not perfected in their natures, except with some contrariety. And their motions also show this. For there is nothing contrary to the circular motion of the heavenly bodies, so that there can be no violence in them either. And the motions of the lower bodies are opposites, that is, downward motions to upward motions. Therefore the heavenly bodies are of more universal power than the inferior bodies. But the universal virtues are the motives of the particulars, as is clear from what has been said. Therefore the heavenly bodies move and arrange the lower bodies. Still, it has been shown above that all other things are governed by intellectual substances. But celestial bodies are more like intellectual substances than other bodies, inasmuch as they are incorruptible. They are also nearer to them, inasmuch as they are directly moved by them, as was shown above. Therefore the lower bodies are governed by it. In addition, the first principle of motion must be something immovable. Those things, therefore, which approach more to immobility must be the motives of others. Now the heavenly bodies come closer to the immobility of the first principle than the lower ones, because they are moved by only one kind of motion, namely local motion. But other bodies are moved by all kinds of motion. Therefore the heavenly bodies are the motives and rulers of the lower bodies. Further, the first thing in any kind is the cause of what is behind. But among all other movements, the first is the movement of heaven. First of all, because the local movement is the first among all movements. And in time, because it alone can be eternal, as is proved in 8 physics. And naturally, because without him there cannot be any of the others. For something is not increased except by a pre-existing alteration, by which that which was unlike before is converted and becomes similar. Nor can there be an alteration except by a pre-existing change of place, because in order for the alteration to take place, it is necessary that the alter be more closely related to the altered now than before. It is also prior to perfection, because local motion does not vary a thing according to something inherent in it, but only according to something external. And for this reason the thing is already perfect. Secondly, because even among local movements there is a prior circular movement, and at the time, because he alone can be eternal, as is proved in 8 physics. And naturally, because it is more simple and one when it is not distinguished into beginning, middle, and end, but is whole as if it were a middle. And also with perfection, because it is reflected back to the beginning. Thirdly, because only the movement of the sky is always found to be regular and uniform. For in natural movements of the heavy and light, there is an addition of speed at the end, but in violent ones, an addition of slowness. It must therefore be that the motion of the sky is the cause of all other motions. For in natural movements of the heavy and light, there is an addition of speed at the end, but in violent ones, an addition of slowness. It must therefore be that the motion of the sky is the cause of all other motions. For in natural movements of the heavy and light, there is an addition of speed at the end, but in violent ones, an addition of slowness. It must therefore be that the motion of the sky is the cause of all other motions. Still, just as the unmoved simply is related to the motion simply, so the immovable according to this motion is related to such a motion. Now that which is simply immovable is the principle of all motion, as was proved above. That which therefore is immovable according to alteration is the principle of all alteration. But the heavenly bodies alone among corporeal bodies are unchangeable. This is shown by their arrangement, which is always found to be the same. Therefore the heavenly body is the cause of all alteration in those things which are altered. Alteration in these lower things is the principle of all motion, for by alteration we arrive at increase and generation. And the generator is the motor in itself, in the local motion of the heavy and the light. It must therefore be that heaven is the cause of all motion in these lower bodies. Thus it is clear that the lower bodies are governed by God through the heavenly bodies,